Financial literacy, and in particular wealth management, is gaining momentum around the African continent, and it's no doubt that Namibians are also joining on that and actually making sure that they are taking charge of their finances. I was meaning to do this video for some time now, since I hosted my wealth assessment seminar, which I must say was purely attended, and I was actually wondering whether I didn't maybe market the seminar quite well, or perhaps people just don't understand the concept of net worth. One of the views that I actually got during that whole process is that people think wealth management is only for wealthy people, and I actually want to dismantle that belief. And in today's discussion, I would like to present a checklist that I personally use to manage my wealth. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Miss KK, and this is The Wave. On The Wave, we discuss topics related to personal, family, and business finances. My hope is that by the time we get to the end of this series, you are really better equipped to make sound financial decisions. If you're new, welcome, and if you're already a returning subscriber, an awesome appreciation for always engaging with us in the comment section as well as on our various social media platforms. I really appreciate it. As I've mentioned, today we are going to be taking a look at the checklist that I used to manage my finance. I didn't develop this checklist. I took it from a book I once read, I think towards the end of 2019, early 2020. But unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the book, and I've already given the book away. Personally, I read a book once and I give it away because I don't like clutter, and I'm not the one that would generally go back to a book unless it's a book I really, really like, especially around motivational book, but not really finance related book. I give it one read and it's good to go. So this checklist, it's a living document. It's something that you should be updating on a regular basis, and I normally look at this checklist on a quarterly basis. If you're not aware, I do my goal setting on a quarterly basis, and I actually did a video on the reflection of Q1 of 2022, and we are currently in month 2 of Q2 of 2022, meaning we should be sort of midway towards trying to achieve the goals we've set for ourselves in quarter 2. To start off with the first tab in the checklist, we are looking at fixed property. This tab is only applicable if you perhaps have property or properties that you are either using for residential purposes or for rental purposes. The details that I generally keep in this tab of the checklist is whether the property is bonded or not. Remember, when you buy a property with a bank, you technically don't have ownership of that property until such a time that you pay over that loan that you got from the bank. And you actually don't even get to keep the title deed. The bank does keep the original title deed, and there's a bond registered over that property, meaning that if you want to sell that property, any buyer that requests for that title deed would be able to see that this property has a bond registered over it until such a time that the loan is fully paid and the bond is cancelled. You are unable to sell that property. So that is the reason why I technically keep a record of whether the property is bonded or not. So if you're frequently looking at this checklist and you perhaps paid off your loan and you actually realize that you never canceled the bond, it might be a good time for you to actually then make sure that that bond is cancelled so that you just have your records up to date. The second thing I keep in the property tab is insurance. Also remember, when you buy a fixed property, you are required to have 2 or at least 3 types of insurance. You are required to have life or credit insurance, so that when you die, the bank has something to go and claim their money from, and your family gets to keep the property. You also are required to insure the house against fire, flood, and those things. And also, you are recommended to actually take out insurance on household content, so that in case something happens to a house, for example, if the fire burns, you will be compensated for the building structure itself and the household content to the extent they were insured. So I generally would put who my insurer is, who the broker, what the policy number is, who the broker is, and the contact details of the broker and the method of payment. So basically, this is just to make sure that I do have a relationship with the broker in an event that I actually want to increase maybe my cover amount. For example, if I maybe add extension to the building and the building is now worth more, that means I actually need to increase the insurance value, or that means the insurance value has increased. That means I need to now increase the insurance premium that I am actually paying in order for me to be adequately compensated in an event of a fire. So having the contact details there would really help on who you need to dial in an event that you need to make those changes. So I had to frequently look at this, and my broker who actually signed me up for the product actually changed jobs, and because of that I had to sign authority to get a new broker, and I actually then removed the details of the old broker and put the updated details. Then the third thing I also look there is the home. I put the home insurance, who the home insurance with, but generally because to sort of get some advantage for bundling insurance, my life cover, my home insurance, my household content covers are all with the same insurance company, so that has also helped me to get a lower premium, especially on house and household content. The more you bundle your thing together, the more it becomes affordable. So really, that's all I keep in the fixed property tab. The thing that I actually then need to add here is now the rental details of the tenants that I currently have. So as you all know, we actually relocated from Wavish Bay to Vented. That actually meant that we needed to rent out the house in Wavish Bay. So what I actually need to do here is I need to add the details of the tenants that are currently renting in the house. I then have to also add how much they are paying on a monthly basis, and I potentially also need to add where is that rental income going, so that I can actually see whether we are spending that rental income or whether we are saving it, in order for us to be able to sort of manage the return on this property. So this is the tab on fixed property. Moving on, the next step that I have is investment. So in this step, I record any investment that I have. It could be retirement, it could be shares, it could be study policies, it could be mutual funds, it could be anything. So any money that I invest, I actually record in here. So I actually have at the moment retirement products, and I have study policies that I've taken out from a black tax contact, and I also have mutual funds. For those that have actually watched my Q1 update, you've noticed that we added two things to our investments in this quarter, and that was the retirement fund and a mutual fund. So this is normally what I keep in this step. So what I would generally keep is I would put the name of the institution with which the investment is, the type of product that I have is, if it's shares, I would put there. If it's retirement fund, I would put there. If it's study policy, I would put there. If it's index fund, I would put there. If it's a unit trust, I would list the type of investment that I currently have there. So having the type of products that you are currently invested would also help you to determine whether you are putting too much risk in one class of asset. Remember, there's different classes of assets that you can invest in. It's fixed properties, it's shares, it's bond, it's retirement products, it's study policies, it's mutual funds, it's unit trust, it's money market, and all that type. So listing the type of product you're invested in would also help you when you take a step back and see, are your risk diversified or are they concentrated in one industry? So that is the reason why I put the type of product that I currently have. Then again, I would put the account number, so that if I want to inquire with the institution on the value of my balance, I can just say, please check for me how much do I actually have accumulated on this particular account number. And then if it's shares, I would put the number of shares that I've currently invested. I would also put the value of contribution per month. This also just helped me to see how much of my current income is actually committed towards investment. I would put the latest value. The latest value is basically just the value that's accumulated on the fund based on the last statement I've received. So there are a lot of investment there where they will send you a statement on a yearly basis. But in an event, I actually don't get a statement on a yearly basis. I make it a point that once a year, especially when I'm doing my personal balance sheet, I get to update the value that is most closer to the recent date on which I'm doing the assessment, so that I can actually know my net worth is actually a true reflection of where I currently stand. Then again, I would also put the contact details of the financial broker that actually wrote me the product. This is just to make sure that I have contact with the people that actually sold me the product. In an event I want to cancel, I want to partially surrender the investment, or I want to take out a new product given the service, the type of service that they've given me. So generally that's the investment tab, and I had to make a recent adjustment to this because, like I've mentioned, we added 2 new products, so I added them on, and I also sold my shares because of independence reasons, so I also had to remove the shares and its related details from this sheet. The next step in the checklist is other insurance, and this tab is, although it's a duplication of some of the insurance that is already covered in the fixed property, I put it here because I would like to revise my insurance on a yearly basis to the extent applicable. So I put my life insurance and short-term insurance, home insurance, and household content. So life insurance, I've had to make recent adjustments to make sure that we are contributing only up until retirement, which is a new product that was offered by my current insurance. So I made sure that I actually make those changes, and I check that those changes are actually effected. I also had to submit a re-revision of my cell phone insurance contract. As you all know, your cell phone would depreciate in value every single year, so it makes no sense for you to keep paying a premium of last year's premium when your phone value has decreased. So the reason why I keep insurance separately is because I want to make sure that when things are changing, I am actually in contact with those brokers, and I'm actually getting the necessary premium adjustment that I deserve. And I'm putting it here separately and making the tab orange because we are busy constructing the house, and as soon as that construction is done and we've valued the house, we then need to go back to the broker for them to be able to update our household insurance premium. Next on the checklist is the bank account. Here I keep track of all the bank accounts that I have and the various balances that I've accumulated on those bank accounts. The reason why I'm putting here is for me to actually just be aware that I do know where my bank accounts are, the branches and the account numbers as well as the value. And if you also take a step back, this is where you actually realize whether you are being a bank account junkie. Remember, the more bank accounts you have, the more money you are actually throwing away in terms of bank charges, because most bank accounts are not free from bank charges. So you're going to have minimal monthly bank charges, you're going to have transaction fees. So you might want to take a step back and see, do I really need all these bank accounts, and can I maybe close out certain bank accounts and consolidate my saving into particular bank accounts? And also here, you might want to also add details of what's the purpose of the bank account? Are you perhaps putting savings in? Are you perhaps transacting in that bank account? Are you perhaps keeping that bank account for your children? And knowing the purpose of the bank account would help you determine whether you should close certain bank accounts or you should keep all of them open. So that's the tab on bank accounts. Then I have another tab in this checklist, which is tax. Generally, here I have my tax number, I have my username and password for the ITIS login details. If you're not registered on ITIS, you are disadvantaging yourself. The benefit of actually registering on ITIS is to make sure that you can access your account at any point in time, and you can see whether you are up to date with your account. So generally, I also keep whether I've filed my return for the respective year since I started working, and whether that year has been assessed, and whether there are penalties and interest outstanding. So at the moment, I have a pending tax issue that I'm currently resolving, and I'm actually keeping track of when I last followed up, who I actually spoke to. And at the moment, I have a meeting on Thursday, and hopefully I get to resolve and clear the 7,000 that's currently reflecting on my account as penalty. So that is just one thing, and the reason why I actually keep the tax tab in here. In particular, making sure that you are up to date with your tax affairs is going to help you, because there are certain jobs that will require you to submit a good standing certificate, or when you go and claim your retirement money, they won't pay out your retirement until your tax affairs are in order. So do yourself a favor and make sure that you are also sorting out your tax affairs. Next up is also Medical Aid. Generally, in this tab, I would keep the details of my membership number, which Medical Aid fund is my medical aid with, what option do I have, and also what are my contact details that I've actually linked to Medical Aid, and whether I have anything that I would like to note in here. So for example, if you maybe have a major operation, or if you are traveling, you need to make sure that you are aware of your benefits so that you don't go out of pocket when you go for that operation. Or if you are traveling, you need to make sure that you're actually requesting for your travel guarantee. That's the reason why I have this tab in here. And also, I recently changed numbers, and I stopped receiving those notifications when when a doctor claims from a Medical Aid. For example, if I go to a pharmacy or if I go to a doctor and they claim. So today I actually remembered, as I was getting ready for this video, I actually remembered that I changed cell phone numbers and no longer get notification. So I just had to quickly contact the Medical Aid and actually also ask them to update the contact details that they have on their system with my new details. So make sure that you are getting updated, you're updating your contact information so that you can also be updated with regards to your benefits and claims that are on your account. The next up is cars or movable property. So in here, I generally just keep the registration number of the car, where the papers of the cars are kept, the purchase price for the car. And the reason why I keep here is because these are generally driving school cars, and we want to keep track of how long we've had the car, what's the value, whether we've recouped the cost of the investment, and when is the disc renewal due. Also, keeping track of when the disc renewals are due would help you budget for once-off expenses, and also keeping track of where your documents are would help you when you eventually want to sell the car. So this is basically the reason why I have this tab here. So also, if you have now taken a car with the bank, I'll suggest that you actually now add who is financing this car, what's the loan amount that you currently have, maybe on a quarterly basis, on a yearly basis, what's your outstanding balance, who is the insurance provider of that car. Basically the same information that you have with the house when it's financing, you should have the same information in the car tab. So that's the reason I have this car tab, and I generally just use it to monitor how the cars are depreciating in value and whether I'm keeping up to date with the disc repayment on a yearly basis. Then another tab I have in this is professional membership. So if you belong to a professional body, you need to make sure that you're keeping up to date with your fees. So basically here I am a registered chartered accountant and I belong to ICANN and POB. So I make sure that I do keep my login, my membership number in here. I do keep my login details because we are required to submit CPD hours on a yearly basis. So me having my login details here would make sure that I don't have to request a new login details every time because I've forgotten my password. And also when is the due date for this CPD hours that needs to be logged so that I don't forget, and what's my membership fee and whether my membership fee has been currently paid. So I keep this because it looks like it's tedious, but it's a lot of information to remember, but having them written down here would just help you make sure that you are not missing any of it. So if you don't belong to any professional body, then this tab is not applicable, but if you belong to a professional body, I would recommend that you actually do create a tab in your financial checklist. Next up is the debtors and creditors section. So in here, I actually keep track of the people that owe me, and this is debt to friends and family, and including debts I have written off. So generally, I would put the name of the debtor, when I gave them the money, how much I gave, and how much they've paid me so far, and what's the balance outstanding. So this is generally where I actually was asking you guys, how often do you follow up with someone before you write off the debt? So I keep track of here, and if I follow up with someone more than 3 times, and unless I actually see you are ignoring me, if I follow up with sometime for more than 3 times and they're not paying me, and then just put next to them write off, and then I just keep a mental note for myself so that I don't actually lend to them in future because they don't keep to terms and conditions of people's agreements. So this is just for me personally to check who owes me, how much they owe me, and how long they've been outstanding. Similarly, if I've also borrowed money from someone, I will also keep here who did I take the money from, how much did they give me, when they gave it to me, and what is the terms and condition of when I should be paying it back, so that I also don't default on my loans and I also keep up with my payment. So basically this is the purpose for this step. And lastly, all that information that I have would now filter through my personal balance sheet, and the personal balance sheet is the crux of the wealth assessment seminar that we have, is for me to determine how much am I worth at a point in time. In here, I would have all the assets that I have, including fixed properties, cars, investments, bank accounts, etc. And then I would have all the liabilities, which include loans I owe on fixed properties, loans I owe to friends and families, tax liabilities, loans I owe to medical aid funds if possible. And at the end of the day, this personal balance sheet would actually calculate how much I'm worth at a point in time. The bonus tip that I also add here is because we all want to be, not all, we are aspiring to become millionaires by a certain age, or we are aspiring to become millionaire at some point in time. So I would put in what's my targeted net asset value that I would like to, and I will also keep track of how far off am I from that goal. So this checklist is really comprehensive. It's a working document. It's not something you get complete in one, and it also requires a lot of time to actually build up front. So for me, it's much easier because I've had it for now 3 or 4 years and the information is already there. But it would require you to request statements from investors. It will require you to contact your brokers. It will require you to contact your medical aid. It will require you to contact all your creditors. It will require you to do a self-introspection of who borrowed money from who did you lend money to, and then eventually when you've gathered that evidence, you can then populate this checklist. But once you have it up and running, it really, really helps you see where you are in the process. This is all I had from today's discussion around the financial checklist. It's a really good tool to use in managing your wealth. It's a really good tool to see where you are, and I believe it can also help you in making sure that you keep on track with your financial goals and you're not backsliding. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Do remember to subscribe and hit that like and notification bell if this video has been helpful and if this is the type of content that you'd like to hear. Until next time, it is goodbye, and that's all for me today.